The year was 1893. A 12-year-old boy from Germany, Hans Wilsdorf, lost his parents, leaving him orphaned. Though he inherited a small sum, it was stolen while he was traveling. Despite this hardship, he held on to his passion for watches, a passion that would lead him to create one of the world's greatest watch brands, Rolex. After his parents' passing, Hans' relatives sold their business and sent him to a boarding school. There, he befriended a Swiss boy who introduced him to the watchmaking industry. Intrigued, Hans saw his future in this field. At 19, in 1900, he moved to Switzerland and found work at Kuehne Korten, a watchmaking company. His role involved checking the accuracy of hundreds of watches daily, sparking his ambition to create perfect timepieces. In 1903, Hans moved to London to further his career, but misfortune struck again. His inherited 3,300 German gold marks were stolen. Undeterred, he took a job in sales and marketing at another watch company. Over the next 2 years, he gained invaluable insights into manufacturing, sales, and consumer preferences. He realized that most watchmakers focused on aesthetic appeal, while customers sought accuracy, durability, and elegance. This inspired Hans to start his own watchmaking business. Lacking capital, he partnered with his brother-in-law, forming Wilsdorf and Davis in 1905. They targeted travelers by designing a compact and sturdy pocket watch called the Portfolio Pocket Watch. It became an instant success. However, Hans foresaw that wristwatches would eventually replace pocket watches. Despite resistance since
wristwatches were primarily seen as women's accessories, he sought too.
In 1906, he observed that both men and women in Britain wore bracelets. Seeing an opportunity, he launched gold and silver bracelet watches rather than labeling them as wristwatches. This branding move boosted their popularity.
Hans also wanted a unique brand name that was easy
to pronounce in any language and neatly fit on a watch dial. After experimenting with over 100 names, he settled on Rolex and trademarked it in 1908. Rolex watches gained recognition, but accuracy issues persisted. At the time, wristwatches lacked precise movements. Hans imported Swiss movements until 1910, when he decided to develop his own. After extensive study, he created the 15-line caliber to 100, which became the first wristwatch movement to receive a chronometer certification. This innovation cemented Rolex's reputation, and by
1914, the company expanded across Europe.
However, World War I disrupted business. Britain imposed a 33% export duty, making Rolex watches significantly more expensive. To survive, Hans relocated the company to Switzerland, officially renaming it Rolex Watch Co. Ltd. The war also shifted demand. Armies required wristwatches for better coordination. In response, Rolex launched trench watches with unbreakable glass, sturdy bodies, and luminescent radium hands, helping soldiers keep time even in low light. These wartime watches made Rolex more popular, and after the war, the public embraced wristwatches, confirming Hans' prediction. One challenge remained: wristwatches were vulnerable to dust and water. Hans tackled this by designing a screw-on watch case, sealing it with rubber rings and a tightly shut winding crown. This innovative case, released in 1926 as the Rolex Oyster, was the world's first waterproof watch. To prove its durability, Hans enlisted swimmer Mercedes Gleitzer as Rolex's first brand ambassador. She wore the Oyster while attempting to swim the English Channel, and although she didn't complete the journey, the watch remained in perfect working condition. This success led to creative marketing, including displays of the Oyster submerged in fish tanks at retail stores. By the late 1920s, Rolex continued to innovate. Hans sought to create an automatic watch to eliminate the need for manual winding. After years of research, he developed the Perpetual Rotor, a 360 rotating mechanism powered by wrist movements. Launched as the Rolex Oyster Perpetual, this breakthrough set a new industry standard. World War II brought another setback, disrupting global supply chains and lowering sales. Then, in 1944, Hans' wife passed away, marking a challenging period in his life. Yet, he remained resilient. In 1945, Rolex celebrated its 40th anniversary by launching the Datejust, the first automatic watch with a date display. To enhance readability, Hans later added a 2.5x magnifying glass over the date, an iconic feature still present in Rolex watches today. Rolex continued to pioneer watchmaking. In 1953, the Rolex Explorer was introduced for mountaineers, designed to endure extreme conditions. 2 years later, the GMT Master was launched with a rotating bezel to help pilots track different time zones. In 1960, Rolex tested the Deep Sea Special, an experimental watch that withstood the immense pressure of the ocean's deepest point, 11,000 meters underwater. Hans Wilsdorf had transformed Rolex into a brand synonymous with precision and durability. In 1960, at the age of 79, he passed away, but his legacy lived on. Rolex became the ultimate symbol of craftsmanship, worn by explorers, aviators, and deep-sea divers alike. This is the story of Rolex, a brand that rose from adversity to become a timeless icon in the watchmaking industry.